The NFL trade deadline is less than a few weeks away. More trades are on the way. Here are some exact scenarios that could happen. Breece Hall to the New England Patriots for a 4th round pick. Yeah, there's some major questions with this scenario. It's also reasons it makes a lot of sense. First, do the Jets, would they actually trade to a division rival? I'd say yes, it's possible because we see it happen a lot more often now than it used to. And the Jets probably wouldn't be too worried about playing him 2 times a year for the long haul because he is on an expiring deal, and they probably just want picks right now. They realize the situation they're in, and they just want to get those picks. Next question, would they accept anything less than a 3rd round pick? This very well could be a 3rd round pick. It could be another team besides the Patriots that's looking for a running back. Chargers, Chiefs, Texans, maybe Cardinals, etc. But those other teams I'd really watch for. But I think the Jets would definitely be open to this, just getting picks back, unless they're still trying to be super competitive. And for the Patriots, their current running back coach was actually the Jets running back coach last year. Very familiar with Breece Hall. He doesn't have final say, obviously, but he's got to be pounding the table for a guy like Breece Hall. Antonio Gibson went down. I heard the Patriots are looking for a running back, more so a running back than a receiver, believe it or not. It makes sense. The Patriots are great right now. They look really good on both sides of the ball. They're ahead of schedule. Drake May's phenomenal. The only negative thing about the Patriots right now is that run game, and you kind of get a 2-for-1 here. They want to throw the ball with Drake May. You get a big-time pass-catching back and a guy that can be your lead back and run the ball. Stevenson, you worry about the fumbles. They just I don't know why, but they just plain and simple do not trust TreVeyon Henderson, at least yet. So this makes a lot of sense. The more I'm thinking, it would be really fun for the Chiefs for Breece Hall. Maybe that's a little more likely than the Chargers. I could see the Texans. Those would be great too. But in terms of fit, the more and more I think about it, the New England Patriots. And the question would be, would a team give up a 3rd round pick? Because that may be what it takes. But an expiring deal, we're about almost halfway through the year. So I think a 4th does make some sense. But Breece Hall is a very talented back, but upcoming free agent. But Patriots would be quite the landing spot. Quite a few Jets trades in this video because we expect them to be sellers and the Niners could be buyers. Here's the first of 2 Niners trades to watch for. Jermaine Johnson, young upside pass rusher of the Jets. The Jets get a 3rd round pick back in return. Now there's legit reports that teams are calling, asking about Jermaine Johnson, and those teams that are calling are saying the Jets are asking for just too much right now. I'm going to assume the teams are offering a 4th round pick, maybe willing to go up to a 3rd, and the Jets are probably asking for a 2nd round pick right now. Maybe more because he's a young, talented pass rusher with upside. But if the Jets keep stacking losses, they could possibly come down a little bit on that price if they decide they want to go absolutely full rebuild. Johnson could be part of that rebuild, but his value is probably not going to, even though he's a former 1st round pick and he's very good if healthy. He was injured last year. What's his ceiling? What is he exactly going to be? Just a very solid starter? Does he have star potential? A lot of questions, especially coming off injury. And the best fit, obviously, being the San Francisco 49ers. We know they need a pass rusher with their injuries, Nick Bosa injury. We know they're calling. We know they're interested. We know Robert Saleh is their defensive coordinator. He was with the Jets. Obviously, Jermaine Johnson was one of his guys. We know it would be a really good fit. Some rumors about Will McDonald here. I think Bryce Huff is his Will McDonald right now. So they already have him. They need more of a hand in the dirt, physical, defensive end, and you get one here with Jermaine Johnson. So 3rd round pick makes sense. Maybe a team like the Niners who have had injury concerns and they know he was injured last year just wouldn't be willing to give up a 3rd. One more year under contract after this year, it's pretty affordable. And maybe the Jets, we like this guy too much. We know he has upside. He could be part of a rebuild. Maybe they won't accept a 3rd. Maybe they need a 2nd, and then the teams won't be able to reach agreement on a deal. We know there's a ton of pass rusher needy teams looking to trade for maybe a guy like Jermaine Johnson. The Eagles could be one. The Commanders, the Colts. We've talked about several teams in that category. The Niners really stand out in this specific scenario right here. Another Niners trade, and one that makes a lot of sense. And watch for the Saints to be sellers. We'll talk about a few scenarios for them throughout this video. But Fred Warner goes down. Linebacker is a very important position for the Niners. It has been, and especially for Robert Saleh's defense. And you got a veteran here that possibly could be available into Mario Davis to try to replace Fred Warner. Not too many great options out there that can actually replace him. But, man, this is a damn good one. A guy that's on an expiring deal, possibly nearing retirement. A good opportunity to get him for a later pick. And at first, this looks like it may not be worth it for the Saints, but I'll tell you it actually is, because Demario Davis is very talented still. You could say his skill and how desperate the Niners could be. He could be worth more than a 5th round pick. Maybe a 4th possible. I don't see it. And the Saints they're better in their record. They're trying to compete. They're trying to win. They can't trade Demario Davis if they're trying to do that this year. So it'll be a reason against it. But I'll tell you, if he retires after this year, the Saints aren't going to get anything for him. Like if he, sometimes with these guys that are in expiring deals, if they walk in free agency, then you get a future compensatory pick. So here's your chance to possibly get something out of nothing, because are you really contending for a Super Bowl anytime soon? You're kind of in a rebuild process, and he's nearing being done, even though he's still playing at a high level. So I think you take the 5th round pick, really, no matter what here. You take it and run, even though his talent may say he's a little better. But given the circumstances, a rental for the Niners, they want Fred Warner to be the guy in the future. He could retire after this year. They probably wouldn't want to give up more than a 5th round pick. So to me, this makes sense for both sides, even though at first glance it's like, is it worth it for the Saints? But if he's done after this year, this would look very, very much worth it. And the Saints should be stacking picks. They traded some away, get those extra picks to look out for the future here. So this would really benefit both teams, the Niners now, Saints long term. There were Jakobi Meyers trade talks before the season, and they are definitely heating up again, and he could be on the move leading up to the deadline. I look at the Steelers. Giants are a team to watch. We'll talk about a receiver for them. Maybe the Falcons could be a little sneaky, but I look at the Steelers. They're definitely looking for another receiver. They're realizing how well overall they're playing this year, and they're in the driver's seat to win that division, but they don't want to let the Ravens or whoever creep back up on them, so they want to make sure this offense is as good as it possibly could be, and they definitely need another receiver. Meyers is a guy that can play in the slot very well in the slot and could play outside as well. Figuring out value is a little tricky because he does want a new contract. Steelers either have to give that, they don't have to give it to him, but they either got to give that to him or they just got to use him as a rental, and it's probably the case. While they have Rodgers essentially a rental, Meyers, do they want to give him a big deal after they gave it to DK Metcalf? So teams really like the Steelers aren't going to give up a ton, and I know he's talented. A versatile receiver, could play different alignments, and he started the year off pretty well the first couple games. The last few games hasn't really been that much of an impact, really not his fault, but that kind of drops his value down, or it's going to be, an expiring deal, a rental here. So that, I would say, makes him a 5th round pick. I think too talented to be less than that. In the Raiders right now, obviously things aren't looking fantastic, maybe like they expected it to. So they probably be willing to just gain some picks here. And they liked having a lot of picks last year. So Meyers to the Steelers again. Watch the Giants. Maybe the Falcons can be sneaky to price some other teams depending on injury as well. Steelers get Meyers. Raiders get a 5th round pick, a scenario that definitely makes a lot of sense. Back on some Saints potential trades if they end up being sellers at the deadline. And here's a receiver for the New York Giants. I'd watch for them for Jakobi Meyers. They do have to do some cap clearing. They have to trade maybe away some of their players. We'll get to that throughout this video. But Brandon Cooks could be on the move once again, but on the move so much. The Saints receiver room actually looking pretty decent right now. So he's a little bit further down the depth chart. They could move him. Just a swap of late round picks. It could be a future, this year 6 going to the Saints with like a 2028 7th round pick going to the Giants. So it could really be any year here. But just a swap of late round picks, small trade. Cook's not the player he used to be, but he's a speedy option that the Giants would like in that offense. Jackson Dart definitely needs another weapon. Meyers would be a little bit better, for them. A little bit bigger of a trade. Do they make that move now? Are they in position to make that move now? It's definitely possible, but Cooks is another receiver that could be on the move, and the Saints would definitely be willing to sell him right now or up until the trade deadline. It would be pretty odd to see the Saints move on from Cam Jordan, a longtime Saint. I could see him just requesting to retire there, and that could stop a trade, but makes a lot of sense with the Chicago Bears. Dennis Allen was a longtime coach, defensive coordinator for the most part for Cam Jordan, and that could make it appealing. The Bears are winning right now. They could definitely use another pass rusher to pair with Sweat and Odangbo. So Cam Jordan does make sense, obviously, as a fit. Swap of picks here. I think he's worth a little bit more than like a late round swap of picks, just a 4 or 5. The Saints re-get that 4th they traded for Vele earlier, or right before the season starts, I should say, but the Bears do not lose a pick with this, but still gain a pass rusher. It's a rental because he's very near retirement probably, but he's still getting after the quarterback. He's got 2.5 sacks this year. That's not fantastic, but he's still doing some damage. It really helped the Chicago Bears out, obviously. And the Saints probably aren't just going to give him away. I think this would be appealing enough for them, but not valuable enough to just gain a pick unless it's a later pick. And he's very cheap too. The Bears don't have a lot of spending money here, so we'll see if they would actually be willing to move on from a longtime veteran player that's been very important to that organization. But they did have Chase Young come back, and Chase Young and Granderson, the guys that they mainly want to be the guys for right now and then possibly the future. So moving on from Cam Jordan could make sense for both sides here with Chicago. The Buccaneers look like the best team in football right now, a serious contender, but with some tough injuries on the offensive line, and it's very rare that solid, experienced offensive linemen become available. The Titans could be having a fire sale. How about Kevin Zeitler? When the Bucs are in need of a guard, you have an experienced, good guard, played very well for the Lions, the Ravens, the Giants at times. So this is an opportunity here. I could see there being multiple teams interested. I'd really watch the Houston Texans as well among a few other teams. Could he return to one of his former homes? Thought about the Lions, maybe the Ravens a little more likely, but I'd say the Bucs and Texans, watch for them. But this is a great opportunity for Tampa. Been beat up at the guard position. Titans will take almost anything, but because there could be a little bit of a bidding war, and it's so rare for good experienced guards to be available. 5th round pick, could it be more? I can't rule it out, but that seems like a bit for a guy that's going to be a rental. Obviously, something the Buccaneers have to do because they're a contender and they could be, if they're a little more comfortable, have a little more insurance. I mean, he would start at guard. That you just feel a lot better about their chances in the playoffs than you do right now, even though they're one of the better teams in football. So another one that there's a lot of logic behind it for both sides. Another Titans trade, another Patriots trade. How about Arden Key? Definitely a name to watch leading up to the deadline. He played under Mike Vrabel when he was in Tennessee. A solid, underrated, versatile edge rusher that can rush from different alignments, but mainly off the edge. Heard the Patriots are looking for not only a running back, but an edge rusher. So it would be a fit under Vrabel, obviously, and could definitely make an impact in that defense. A better fit there than how he is fitting in Tennessee, even though he's solid. So I just think it'd be I think he's more talented than what the 6'7" swap says, but that's what it would be if the Key trade would happen and the Titans having a fire sale at the deadline. This would be a fun one. If the Titans are having a fire sale, will they trade Tony Pollard? I don't see why not. They got to know he's not their long-term answer at running back, even though he's good, but they're somewhere in that early in that rebuild process. So there's really no reason to hang on to Pollard. Get a pick for him right now. The Chiefs reportedly have been looking for a legit running back. They're trying to add one, and I believe that because in the recent past, they've been quietly trying to add a better running back. They took a swing on Elijah Mitchell, hoping he would be something a little better, but they tried to get Josh Jacobs when he was a free agent. Obviously, the Packers offered him more money. Here's an opportunity. Pollard, a guy I think that could fit. The Chiefs are a little picky with their types of running backs. I believe he could fit. I think he can mesh well with Kareem Hunt and Pacheco because they're still trying to use those guys. So worth the go. That's really the only thing the Chiefs need because that team's really, it feels like after that Lions game kind of getting going, they get Rashee Rice back. So kind of makes sense, like all these trades do, for both sides here. But this one would be definitely interesting. Maybe a little more bold than the rest of them, but I could see it. The Chargers are another team to watch out for when it comes to running backs. I considered several here. Will they go for like a Breece Hall? And Breece Hall wants to be like the firm starter. So when Hampton comes back, is that kind of an issue? Do they want to go that big for that big name of a player? I thought about Jerome Ford, Devin Singletary. There's a few other that could pop up. Could they get Tony Pollard? It's a possibility as well. I was really thinking about Devin Singletary and Jerome Ford here. I think they would like Keaton Mitchell. Could that be a smaller one? I really think that in that system, that Greg Roman offense, they'll like Jerome Ford. Question is, do the Browns want to trade him? Because they're trying to win right now, and they're giving him some carries. They're splitting him with Judkins. Judkins more of the guy. Do they give an increase to Dylan Sampson? They should. So they should be willing to trade Jerome Ford. It's a pretty solid backup running back that right now possibly could start for the Chargers. Pair him with Vidal until Hampton comes back. But a swap of late round picks, is that worth it for the Browns? That will kind of be the question here, but he'd be more of an impact with the Chargers, and they're reportedly looking for a running back. Is that still the case? With Vidal playing very well against Miami last week and Hampton a step closer to returning, but it just depends on how they feel about, like, will he be good to go 100% right away? Will an injury pop up again? They'll have to figure out if how confident they are in that category. They may need another running back because it's a team that really will want to obviously compete in the playoffs, and for that to be the case, they need to make sure they're strong at that position. Earlier in this video, we talked about the Giants potentially buying a receiver, whether it's Cooks, whether it's Jakobi Meyers, someone else. They don't have a ton of spending money at all. They may have to trade players away. Here's a few that we're going to talk about. Evan Neal just hasn't worked out for them. He was a stud prospect at Alabama, so there's got to be a team out there that's like, man, if we can get our hands on him, and it'll be a cheap cost at this point. We waited. He was probably involved in talks last year. Now is the time we get him cheap. And the Chargers happen to be desperate for offensive line help here. So that'd be a really good fit, maybe him to revive his career and possibly, they don't have to throw him in right away, but possibly play depending on injury or if he looks good. So a swap of late round picks. Giants clear a little bit of space, move themselves up into 6th round, and they can help them make moves. The Giants are the ultimate team that could be buyers and or sellers, both. There's going to be teams that are one or the other. Watch for the Giants. The other way, the Chargers obviously could be sellers, already made a trade, last week. But this is one that I would really like to fit for. Evan Neal with the Chargers, a team that is desperate for not just tackle, but Neal could be depth at guard if you need him to be as well. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 there. A first-round pick from just a few years ago in his rookie year, Deonte Banks was excellent. After that, it's been a struggle. Remember, Don Martindale was the defensive coordinator. He drafted Deonte Banks. Perfect fit in his scheme, and they switched defensive coordinators, obviously Martindale in college, and it just hasn't worked out from Banks, and you see his snaps decrease every single week right now. They don't really trust him. Last time he was on the field, he got beat. So this is a guy that could be on the move to kind of get a fresh start. The upside and the talent is in there with the right defense. I feel like he's got Lions written all over him. They're going to be a little hesitant to spend big, go for like a pricey guy when it comes to money and when it comes to compensation, what they have to trade away. This makes a lot of sense. Really good fit for their scheme. They're very beat up at the cornerback position. They have really solid young safeties that he can be paired with, and you can get a lot out of him. I love this. A dream fit right here. Love this. And he should be on the cheaper side because the Giants are playing him less and less. They just don't want to play him anymore. Maybe they'll be a little stubborn because in the back of their minds, they're going to be like, we just drafted this guy in the first round. He looked like a stud his rookie year. I don't know if a team would give up a little more in this. It could be less, a swap of picks if the Giants are completely done. Interesting one. This would be well worth it for the Lions. And if the Giants aren't going to play him and they like their other corners, then I suppose why not? But I have to believe he still has some upside in there, so this would be fun. We're all waiting on the Russell Wilson trade. They have Jameis Winston behind Jackson Dart in case Dart goes down. And that's the worry because Dart's been a little banged up in all 3 games he's played, or 2 out of the 3. So maybe the Giants just want to keep Wilson just in case, but they have Winston, and Russell Wilson hasn't looked good for them. He came in for a play or 2 against the Eagles through a terrible pass. A-ball's freaking out. Dart needs to get back in there, concussed or not. So might as well trade him. The Colts, Anthony Richardson goes down on the IR now after that pre-game warm-up injury. So I don't know what's going on there with Indy, but they could use another quarterback. Daniel Jones is playing very, very well, but if we get past the trade deadline, you have no more opportunities to add a legit experienced quarterback. If Daniel Jones goes down, they're not going to expect that, but if he goes down, you have an incredible season that is just over unless you got a guy like this. So it's almost a better safe than sorry situation. I'd watch for the Vikings as well. McCarthy's coming back. I don't think they trust him. He's been injured 2 out of 2 years. Carson Wentz is a little banged up right now. They like him right now, but if he gets banged up further, it's a similar situation. What happens? So I've been saying watch for Minnesota even a few weeks ago, more so than Cincinnati. Cincinnati trade for Flacco. So Colts or Vikings, ones to watch. Right now, the Colts badly need a backup unless they really like Riley Leonard as a backup, but backup quarterbacks with experience typically go for more than everyone expects. I'd say a 5th-round pick. It does seem a little rich right now, given halfway through the year, value kind of drops. So maybe a 7th-round pick going back to Indy, in exchange here. So another piece the Giants could sell, and the Colts we could expect to be buyers when it comes to quarterback, maybe corner, maybe even pass rusher if Trey Hendrickson is available. It's a big question if he's actually available. Cam Taylor-Britt, a brand new trade candidate because he was a healthy and active for Cincinnati. Maybe they feel like he doesn't fit the new defense under Al Golden like he did under Lou Anarumo. But yeah, before the year or last year, if you said this guy get traded for a 5th round pick, you'd say that's the worst trade ever for Cincinnati. But now they're not going to be using him. They lose all leverage because of that. The value obviously goes down. So could they be moving him? And there are several teams that badly could use a corner. The Rams could use one. We talk about the Lions. This could be a Lions move here. I'd really watch for Philadelphia, other teams as well. But we talked about Lou Anarumo, former defensive coordinator. He's with the Colts. The Colts, they're really good right now. The only spot they're struggling is corner. It's mainly due to injuries, but Xavier Howard also retired. They definitely could use another big-time corner in there. It makes so much sense. It just makes a ton of sense here. So, again, skill level says he's worth much more than a 5th. But if the Bengals aren't going to play him, if they're not agreeing with him, he doesn't fit. I don't know the exact situation here, but that really drops his value. So this would be big time if the Colts could do something like this. I'm very curious if the trade actually happens. Will it be a fifth? Will it be a swap of picks? Will it be like a 4? It could be. I could see so many different scenarios here. But again, the landing spot, the fit, it is there here. But several teams could be after a corner like this, as there are not many very good ones available, and a lot of teams that could use a corner. The Eagles' pass rush is not getting home consistently enough right now. Howie Roseman always making big-time splash moves, especially at the deadline. So Bradley Chubb, that Vic Fangio fit, it makes a lot of sense here. So Eagles get Bradley Chubb in this scenario. The Dolphins get a 4th-round pick. You could say maybe he has a little more skill than that. A little bit more of a veteran player, injury in the past. Dolphins could be just looking to get picks right now. So I don't know if a team gives up a 3rd. It's definitely possible. I'm not counting on it. I don't think they would accept anything less than a 4th. I mean, not even accept the 4th, but anything less than that, I really don't think they would accept. But we'll see. I mean, by far, and there's several teams that could use a pass rusher. The Niners are kind of the other highlighted team. People talk about the Colts a lot. A long list of teams, obviously, but the Eagles stand out when it comes to Bradley Chubb for obvious reasons. Fangio, the Denver fit there where he was playing at a very high level. And an interesting corner trade for the Eagles, as that's actually their biggest need right now. They've had a pretty poor outing at the position, and Mitchell a little banged up after that last Thursday night game. So Rasul Douglas, familiar face, could make some sense, but other corners could as well. We talked about Cam Taylor-Britt would make a lot of sense for Philly as well. They could definitely be interested there, so I'd watch for that. This one kind of gets a little unique because it's kind of a player-for-player trade. Because first I'm like, ooh, Dolphins should be selling. They probably would trade Douglas. They're not locked in with them long term, right? But at the same time, they have like no corners. They need a corner. So the Eagles are going to ship one back to them. A young guy with upside that just hasn't really worked out for Philly is Ringo. So you swap corners, but also a 6th-round pick going to Miami. And it really helps both sides. Dolphins get a pick for the future. They get a corner for the future. They're not actually losing a body. And the Eagles get a guy that makes sense. They're trying to compete right now, and they have to be playing better, especially at the cornerback position. So a little bit more of a unique one. Bold if this exact thing happens. Again, they could be after one of those other corners like a Cam Taylor-Britt. Eagles always active. They will be active leading up, right up until that deadline. Corner, edge. I mean, I can see other positions as well. Interior defensive line, there's really none available that we know of right now. So definitely one of those 2 teams to watch as Eagles buyers, Dolphins potential sellers if they keep stacking losses. So bunch of scenarios that I just said it a million times in the video, but it just makes sense. So I thought I would jump on and do this. We'll have more trade deadline videos all the way up into the deadline. There'll be more news, more rumors. We'll also talk about the candidates. Whenever there's new ones and the landing spots that they potentially have. We have weekly coverage with picks, score predictions, bets, power rankings, and more. So join us for all of our content, everything NFL. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.